Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist. Today I want to talk about inner child. I don't think I've spoken about this on the channel, and it's often a key part of a lot of therapy approaches and can be very relevant when working on food and body image problems. So let me just share with you Wikipedia's definition of inner child. It says, the inner child is often conceived as a semi-independent subpersonality subordinate to the waking conscious mind. Okay, now we've cleared that up. Let's move on. I don't know why they word it like that. But it's basically beliefs, memories, emotions from the past that become very active now. And when they become active now, we often feel not like an adult. So the concept is that we have these younger versions of ourselves that we kind of carry in us, almost like sub-personalities, and they can become active. And when they become active, they can take over our behavior. And in the moment we become that, we feel like that is who we are. And the problem is we all have these painful experiences as kids. And it all starts to form our belief system and how we feel about ourselves and our place in the world. And then we use these beliefs and this system that was developed with very young, uninformed minds, and they become our belief systems now. They continue to be them. I think you can often tell when something comes from the past because it's like it won't disappear with rationalization. So you could know that something is not necessarily true, but it still feels true. Because it's like this gets coded into our nervous system. So in order to access our inner child, there's something about recognizing that they exist. And if I were to ask you, can you think of like the first time or an early memory of you having this experience which made you realize that your body wasn't good enough or that you were unacceptable in some way? For many people, the kind of memories that will come up will be a comment from a family member or a peer or something that happened at school. Something happened, and in that moment you had this, what felt like this realization that there was something wrong with you. And so many of our memories and what we experience, we just forget. We don't remember everything. The things that we remember tend to be the things with the most emotional charge. So a lot of people will, when they look at this, there will be a couple of particularly strong, painful memories that might come up. When we are born into this world, we don't have self-consciousness. Babies are not conscious of themselves. Even little kids aren't. They'll run around sticking their bellies out and they'll dance and get excited and they don't care. And then at some point, self-consciousness starts to seep in. And the self-consciousness comes from the realization that, oh, if I'm really excited, that might annoy someone else. Or why would I behave like this when no one else is behaving like this? And sadly, I think that many of us, this means we lose the ability to access that unfiltered joy. We all have emotional baggage that we carry from childhood. And this can often look like anger or disappointment or shame about unmet needs. You know, those around you, the adults, the people that should have known better, hurt you, didn't give you what you needed, didn't support you in the way that you needed, or maybe even actively harmed you, depending on your story. And we experience these things from bigger, more powerful people, and we draw conclusions about what that means about us, our lovability, our acceptability, and our good enoughness. And when I'm working with people, so often like the same story will come up again and again, this thing that happened or this way in which they were failed, and we get very stuck in it. When we're stuck in it, we tend to tip into either hopelessness and shame or anger and blame. And there's nothing morally wrong with either of these two positions. I want to take morality out of it, but they don't feel good. So when we're talking about inner child work, what we're really looking at, and here's the bad news, guys. The bad news is we are now the adults. And what we wanted the adults and those that cared about us or were around us to give us, we now have to give to ourselves. So if you didn't feel accepted by your caregivers or your peers, it's now your job to figure out how to accept yourself. If your emotions were never validated, you were never taught how to handle emotions, that they were okay to have, now it's your job to do that, because we are unfortunately the only adult in the house. And by house, I mean in the body, in our actual experience. So the first thing is to identify, what was it that you didn't get as a child? What was it that you needed and longed for? We get caught up in these patterns of chasing that thing. So when you identify these memories that hold the shame, what was it you needed instead in that moment? Identifying that, maybe writing it down, and then looking at that and going like, okay, my job now is to figure out how to give this to myself. It could be that your wound is about you were made responsible for how everyone around you felt. And what you needed was to understand that it's not your responsibility if those around you are experiencing their emotions. So now that's something you need to offer to yourself. Now, don't get me wrong, this work is hard. This is not easy, quick fix, couple of journaling exercises and you're done. For many of us, this is a repeated thing that we go through, this way of now we have to look after our inner child. And this work can bring up a lot of shame and a lot of resistance. And so it's, can you bring an intention to yourself to approach this with a level of compassion? Now you might say, okay, well, how do I do that? I think it's recognizing your innate innocence, that we're all born innocent. And then things happen and we become conditioned based on what happens. But that there's something in us, there's some kind of life force that is above our conditioning. Because if there isn't, well, then free will doesn't even exist. We are just the result of conditioning. And I don't want to believe that, so I'm not gonna. And that's the thing to hold on to. You are innocent, and then life happened to you. So this is about taking, and I use this word really cautiously, a responsibility for your here and now experience. Just here and now. Don't take experience for the future, this whole long journey of healing if you feel like you've got this big job to do this work. It's just here and now. It's coming back to looking after yourself now. Validating that it is okay to have needs. It doesn't make you needy. And that you deserve to have those needs met. And it's your job to figure out how to get them met. And that might be sometimes asking other people to help you. I'm not talking about moving into some kind of pathological independence here, but we're the only one in this car. So we need to be in the driver's seat. I appreciate this is a big topic to go into on a YouTube video. So if you want me to do any more videos about inner child stuff, and if you have any questions that you'd like me to expand on in this topic, then pop them in the chat below. So thank you for watching. See you on the next video.